have imposter syndrome? That niggling voice in the back of your head telling you you're just not good enough. Does it get in the way of your blogging and your business? If so, listen to this week's episode of the Blog-Centric Podcast. Welcome to Spiderworking's Blog-Centric Podcast, a podcast about blogging. Hello and welcome to episode 60 of the Blog-Centric Podcast. I'm Amanda Webb and you'll find the show notes for today's episode at spiderworking.com/60. Until 2016, I didn't understand the term mindset. It seemed a little bit airy-fairy to me. But something happened in 2016. I had a mindset change. I didn't engineer it. I didn't even realise what it was until much later on. But it did give me a new perspective on my life, on blogging, on business. It made me happier. And that doesn't mean I don't have hang-ups or anxiety. I've quashed some of the demons, but there are some that persist. For example, I suffer, as I know a lot of you bloggers out there do, from imposter syndrome. The thought that actually I haven't got a clue. I'm a fake. I'm a fraud. Enter Frederique. I've known Frederique offline for about 7 years and we met because we were both blogging for a blog called Bloggertone, which is now Tweak Your Biz. And we've stayed in touch online. And we finally met in person last year at the Sage Business Expert Meetup. It was then I realised that she had a lot of advice to help bloggers. So I called her for an interview and we discussed some of the things you can do to banish imposter syndrome and that nagging little voice that just wants to tell you you're rubbish. You're listening to Blog-Centric from Spiderworking. Today I'm joined by Frederique Murphy, and Frederique just reminded me offline that the first time that we got to know each other was way back. There was a blog called Bloggertone, which is now Tweak Your Biz, and we were both bloggers there, and I think we were both reasonably new in business then, weren't we?
I think so, because I think we're talking, I don't know. I mean, if we're talking something like 6, 7 or 8 years ago, and we're a bit vague in digital time. It's a very long time, isn't it? So that's why we're vague. But in digital, we know each other for a long time.
And it's one of those things. Our paths kept crossing, but I think we really got to know each other. I think we met properly for the first time last year at Dublin Airport on the way to Newcastle for a Sage, because we're both Sage small business experts, to an event there. So, and Frederique, tell me a little bit about you and what you do for people.
So my name is Frederique Murphy, as you said, and I'm sure now your readers can hear my accent and can see that I am, as it says on the team, half French, half Irish. And I call myself, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about how people call themselves and put labels on themselves, but the easiest way that I can introduce myself is saying that I'm a mindset strategist. And basically, as a mindset strategist, I help leaders. I mostly work with business leaders, whether owner of their own businesses or entrepreneurs or solopreneurs or executives and owners of larger organizations. And I inspire and equip them to move through extraordinary change. And as you would know, change is constant, and what really stops us from change is ourselves, is the limit we put on ourselves, our inner dialogues that we have, the procrastination that we do. And so obviously all of this has to do with mindset. And so over the last, just to really fast forward, but over the last close to 2 decades now, I've been learning as much as I could from mind and brain, point of view. So I use 3 main sciences: positive psychology and neuroscience and behavior change, and combined with mind sciences such as quantum linguistics or neurolinguistics to really help people be the best that they can be. And all of this has to do with our mind and our brain.
And what I love about what you do, I was just watching back some of your podcasts from last year. One of the things that I love is that when you explain things, it's really simple changes. There's nothing like, you think you're going to go into this and there's going to be real heavy work to do, but it's so simple. Some of the things like the to-do list, what you should do for a to-do list is not call it a to-do list.
I love that you say that. Yeah, I think I love simplicity because many, many years ago, I just really realized that we tend to make things more complicated than they are. And I think if we remember that simplicity is our friend and how empowering simplicity is, and I think that's something that makes me quite unique because even so I come from a scientific background, I think my audience never feels like it's going to be complicated to listen to me or thinking, oh gosh, she's going to start talking about the brain and, I'm not going to understand. And I stay away from many of the words. I know them, but I don't use them because my impact would be lesser. And I'm very focused on making the most impact that I can. And as you know, I mostly work from stage. And of course, the entire online work that, that I do along the sides. But in terms of offline work, it's on stage. And I'm always focused on making it as simpler as I can be so that the impact will be the greatest.
And it totally works. And I have to say, mindset was one of those terms I'd heard so many people talking about in the past, and I probably was one of those words I was going, I don't know what that means, and until I had a mindset change completely by myself, and then I went, that's what they're talking about. And I think that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today relating to blogging, because I think our mind, the little voices inside our head get in our way of doing things.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because now many of our, of your listeners listening to this, are going to kind of be nodding their head along and going, oh, mindset is such a big word. And in fact, it's actually really simple. So we're back to that simplicity, is that our mindset absolutely drives every single thing that we do or that we don't do. So when we take it then down from that big picture to a narrower focus of us blogging today and being bloggers and talking about, as you said, some of the things that we've already mentioned, mindset has everything to do with it. And there are simple changes here and there that we can do for greater impact.
You're listening to Blog Centric from Spiderworking.
So the first topic that I wanted to talk about was imposter syndrome. And the reason I want to talk about this is I know it's something I suffer from a lot. I should probably, maybe I'll let you explain what it is. Something I suffer from a lot. And I think it hits a lot of us this time of year when it starts getting dark and we're coming towards the end of the year and we're looking at the goals that we made. And I see a lot of other people complaining about it, whether they know what the term means or not. They're describing it in some way. So do you want to describe what it is, or will I?
Go ahead, actually. It'll be interesting to hear the words that you're going to use.
Okay, so I suppose imposter syndrome is when you think... How would I explain this? You think that you are an imposter. So basically, I write about blogging and social media, and loads of people read my stuff and comment on my stuff, and some people leave reviews and say nice things. And I think to myself, well, they don't actually know that I actually know nothing. I'm complete fraud. In fact, probably they're all saying nice things just to get on side for some reason. That's kind of where it comes from. I think I'm just, because it's very hard in your own head to know your own ability and where you are. So I think that's where it comes from for me. I just think I've done all this stuff, but actually I know nothing. That's it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's great, and I'm sure your listeners are very grateful, to hear you say that, because you're the host of this amazing podcast. You've gone way beyond the first year. Many people, stopped before the first year, and as you said, you've been in business for many, many years blogging. So for them to hear you, that's going to make an impact on them, because the first thing to know is that you can have it, I can have it. Some days, some hours, some minutes, we all have it. And we've already mentioned, so if we want to talk strategy, because we've already kind of gave the clue, we are talking about this little voice, and we all have it. So I think the first thing is that no one listening to this podcast should ever think that they are not normal, thinking that they had this little voice for all of those years, probably as far as they can think back, probably telling them things that we do not want to share online because it won't be PC. And it just goes with us wherever we go, and it just goes, nya, 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 nya. And it just goes on and on and on. And the truth is, yes, it is there. And there is nothing wrong with you. It just shows up when we have the tiniest doubt, the tiniest figment of fear, the smallest insecurity. Like, as you said, it could be, you said the light, maybe, the change of time, that it gets a bit darker. Or it could be a tweet we receive from, someone. Or it could be a comment we get, an email we've received. Anything that's going to get our insecurity, doubt, or fears, and then suddenly it just goes full on. And so we all have it. What's important is to learn to really leverage our mind so that we can control it, as opposed to have it control us. What's really important is that it's an it, and we have power over it, unless we don't do anything, because then it powers us. I have this process, and I know there'll be show notes, so maybe the best way is to quickly talk about it and give a couple of strategies right here, right now. And then in the show notes, we could give, the full list, so that then your listeners can get access to the full list and the full process. But what's really important with that voice is to really, learn how to control it. Because if you don't do it, basically it will then control you. By not doing anything is one of the worst things that you can do, because then it just takes over. So the first thing that we can do when it goes on and on and on is actually to really realize how powerful we are, and by commanding it to see that it's going to work. So to actually say to yourself, stop it. Now, you could say something less PC if you wanted to, whichever command is going to work for you. I'm quite PC myself. So for me, stop works, really, really well. And, there were days in my life where, now it may happen maybe one or twice a day. And I used to have to use those strategies. Like, I really talk from experience. I wouldn't want anyone on the call to listen to the podcast and think, she has it easy, or all of this comes from, real deep personal experience. And all of the strategies I'm going to share, and particularly those ones, there were days where I had to use them 10, 20, 30, 40 times a day, because that's how strong my inner dialogue was. And when the more you do it, because our brain is so powerful, the more we do a strategy, the easiest it gets, which actually is logical when you hear, when you think about it. The more you do something, the easiest it gets. So the more authoritative you get with your voice, and by directly talking to it and actually commanding it to stop, the faster it will actually stop. And the more you do it, the less you will have to do it. Does that make sense?
It does. So basically, if I say stop, will I say it out loud?
So, it depends. If you're in the tube, in a very busy environment, you may not want to say it out loud. But if you feel that you can, by all means, go for it. I would say it. I would either mutter it or just really strongly think it, because whatever we think, our brain picks up on it.
Okay, and so basically by saying stop, we're stopping ourselves spiraling into that chain of thought. Is that the idea behind it?
It is, because you are interrupting a pattern.
You're listening to Blog Centric from Spiderworking.
If those strategies are quite new to you and if you've never done it before, you may start with this one and you may then want to do another one on top. There's quite a few that you can do. So another one, which also coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, also starts by S, is to swap. And by swap, I mean that when you are letting those thoughts come in, what you want to do is also do a different kind of pattern interrupt. And instead of commanding it, if you want to go another way, you basically need to find yourself doing something else. And the brain, as amazing as it is, and I'm sure some people may be surprised hearing this, maybe even yourself, Amanda, is that actually the brain does not like to multitask whatsoever. Really doesn't like it. It can do it, but it does not like it because it's not as efficient as it could be. So the energy and the focus that your brain has dedicated to that little voice, if you then suddenly say, okay, off I go, I am going to put on a song and dance for the next 5 minutes like no one is watching.
You've seen me do this, yeah?
Did I pick a good one?
You did.
Or I am going to go out and, go for a small 3K or 5K run or walk. I'm going to just do something. So by swapping, you want to interrupt that activity, and instead of, continuing, and because the worst thing you could do, and we've all done it, would be to go into a room, switch off the light, and even put like one of the worst, depressive song ever, and then just continue listening to that voice. And so obviously we don't want to do this. So swapping is also a great thing. And as Amanda knows from experience, the music is really powerful.
I'm a big dancer, I have to say. So yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right with the music.
Yeah, I often recommend my audiences to say, have it ready. Nowadays with smartphones, you can have a playlist ready. I usually recommend, maybe have 3 to 5 songs that you have on a playlist. They are the ones that are going to revitalize you, energize you, make you really happy, and have them ready, because the extra step that you will have taken to do that playlist will come again and kind of save you and really take you out of, the hole you were kind of going into. And it's easily accessible. Just grab your phone. We usually have our phone almost around us at all time. You have the songs there ready, switch it on. If you're in an environment with people around you, put your headphone on. If you're not, the reason why also I was saying just not listen to it, but also dance, is that dancing is just really powerful. It's just it's even more powerful because a lot of energy, your brain has to send some energy for you to start moving, your arms and your legs. And it's just really, really powerful. Because as you move, something else as well is that I guess I'll give a third one, and then we can continue and see, and definitely give the article if you want, so that people can read the full, and get a lot more strategies. Is that we get a lot of our like when we do this inner voice thing, we tend to be sitting. And we stay sitting. And actually standing up is something really powerful. The simple fact of you standing up actually already increases the oxygen flow in your brain by 20%. And that amazing 20% just makes you feel so much better, which is quite interesting actually, because when we have a problem, we tend to sit down. Like I'm sure you may have done it before. I've done it before, which is actually quite illogical, because we want to get our brain to be the best. So we should not be sitting down when we have a problem. We should just be standing up.
Are you a fan of those standing desks?
Yes, I am. Absolutely.
Okay.
I have one. That's how I'm recording this interview with you right now.
That's interesting because I sometimes stand up to podcast. I'm not at the moment because I need to make notes. I don't have a standing desk because I'll forget what I want to ask you. But I've been thinking about one. They sound tempting.
Yeah, they are really, really powerful. And actually, they are based on this exact fact that I just gave. So when we are standing up, there's an influx of oxygen in our brain, and it just makes it perform the best. And so that it's, it's good. What I do have in my office in terms of, thinking kind of logistically and how it works is actually I have two, but I have a bit more, but I want maybe that could be another episode of where we go through all of the, but it's quite a large room, but I have, let's say I have two walking area. Actually, it's not true. So I'm going to talk about two, otherwise there is a standing one, but then I also have a sitting one, where I'll have my notes and my post-its and, where I'll do a lot of the brainstorming and design work.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So then there's, I think there's a time for sitting and there's a time for standing up. And I think that a lot of shops are really starting to have, either like one or two models now. So it's becoming a lot more affordable to have them as well.
Yeah, I think I might try one. I have like a sitting down desk and a couch. So it's all about down for me. So maybe standing up would be a thing I should do.
The way you said it yourself, you would stand up. I think we have more energy. It's the same thing that we used to say, where it's still true when people should smile on the phone, or it just gives you. It's just to send the right signal to the brain.
You're listening to Blog Centric from Spiderworking.
So far we've got tell ourselves to stop it, either out loud if we're by ourselves or just strongly in thought if we're on a busy tube. And to swap that, which is I think that's a really creative way of doing things. It's something I probably do without thinking about it. So before our podcast today, I went for a short walk.
Perfect.
Just to get out of one task and into the next, if you know what I mean. And then, so you said you have a third one then?
So the third one could be Scribe. We're going to keep the S because then it'll be easier for us to remember. So then we have stop, swap, and Scribe. And obviously Scribe is just so that it's easier for us to remember. But of course, what we want to say is write. So we want to write. What happens is when we don't, all of the strategies are for us to take control of it. Always remember that, we are in control of that it. When we don't do anything, it's in our head and it just tends to get messy and it's like a jumble mess. What happens is if you take a pen and paper and I'm all for gadgets, but right now for this strategy, we really want to go accessing the pen and paper. I know I'm hearing some shock already from our listeners. It's like, no, yes, please do.
I don't know. I know a lot of bloggers who are pen and paper people, so I think you're okay.
So pen and paper, and start writing down what the voice is telling you. I have found that, and I know it's all scientifically based, but what happens is that there is like an overpower that happens when it's in our head. But when it's on paper, often we would actually start, like, it'll just be laughable what we are actually saying. There is this thing when, it's like when you start writing it down, it's the other way around of a joke, actually. Have you, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but if you read a joke, it could be funny, but it's like, But if someone does it to you and actually says it to you, and they are, they are moving their arms and they are doing tones and they are totally delivering it to you, this is actually a little bit like what your voice is doing. It's like really delivering the joker and the kind of clownish way. And it has quite a lot of power to you. But actually, if you start writing it down, you'll start kind of like not believing, like you kind of go, okay, hang on a minute, come on. I'm actually not thinking this. So that's what we want to get at.
Okay, so that sounds like, so would that be something you would recommend doing, like just when you need to clear your head out, when you're going through that phase? When I'm going through that phase, going, I don't know, I can't write, I don't know why anyone reads my stuff. Or is it something we should do more regularly just to keep our head clear? Because I've heard about this daily journaling thing. I've never tried it, but I know a lot of people recommend it.
I think there are two. So those ones are working, they are pattern interrupt. So they are working really, really great as soon as you said, as soon as your little voice comes in. And they'll take, like the first one takes a second, to do. And as I said, the more you'll do it, the less you'll have to do it, because your brain will pick up on you becoming more authoritative and actually getting more control. So really trusting that, how amazing your brain is and how you can really create that neural path that's going to be so powerful for you. The swapping and the standing up and swapping / standing up, and then the third one that we gave, which was Scribe, they can be done in addition if it's still going on and you just really want to get through it. Mm-hmm. Now, I like how you're thinking, because so those ones are when it's happening right there. Like right now, it's happening. Just do it. Stop, stand up, swap, Scribe. If you wanted to, because you are going the step higher, as a general wellness, it's great to have those bullet journaling or those mindful journaling, or there are so many journals out there where actually when you do write down, so for instance, if we're focusing on the gratitude journal, the way that one works is that it makes you focus on what you are grateful for, and it makes you focus on the positive of your life, which means that actually it does help towards your inner dialogue and that little voice of yours, because it'll have less stuff to say because you'll be more focused on the good things. So having it as a maintenance in overall well-being is a great thing. I'm also a fan of visualization. I talk a lot about visualization on the blog, actually on the podcast as well, and pretty much anywhere, even from stage. When we spend time visualizing, it's just really, really powerful, because whatever happens in our, as business owners, solopreneurs, executives, when we are, anything that we achieve has to start in our mind. So when we visualize and give ourselves the time to see it happen in our mind first, then we can make it happen. It's just really, really strong because we are properly setting it up in our mind. So both would be ideal.
That sounds like great advice. And you know what? I'm thinking, although we're recording this just before Christmas, it's probably not going to go out till just before the new year. So this is great. I'm already going in my head, right, there's a big list of things for me to get sorted in the new year.
Good. I love that.
Might be a bit longer for the standing desk, but I'll find some way to make sure I'm standing up more during the day. Okay, I have to say, we did have another topic. I don't think we're going to have time for it. So maybe we'll do another one next year.
Procrastination. Because I thought, this was the perfect breed for the procrastination.
Well, it's exactly the same. The other topic we were going to talk about, just for the listeners. But again, I think, what you've got there is going to fix both of those problems. Is that, yes, exactly, procrastinating, knowing you want to blog, but not getting around to it, which is kind of the second tip. I have to say, already it's a really dull day, really, really horrible dull day. We're both in Kildare, so I'm sure it's the same where you are. And you've already made me feel a lot better.
I'm glad. And, looking up at any point in time, if, like right now, so if you were standing up, and making sure that your eyes would look up towards the ceiling, and you would open both of your arms and basically do what it's called the power pose. Do this like every hour, at least, as a minimum. And it just really, really makes you feel so much better. Then you can continue going on.
That's a good one. And, my watch beeps every hour to tell me to stand up. So maybe that's what I should do, rather than just manipulating it and wiggling my arm around until it shuts up. I should do that. I should stand up, put my eyes up to the ceiling, put my arms out, and I feel a lot better.
Yeah, so the full M3, because we haven't said, but my platform is called Maintain Moving Mindset, and it's very easy. Basically, when your mindset is strong enough to move mountains, your mindset is strong enough to do anything. And so instead of just saying Maintain Moving Mindset, we call it M3. So the full M3 process is stand up, look up, smile, and think of one amazing achievement that you've already accomplished. That takes you about 30 seconds. And really boost you for, that next hour. Then do it again.
That's great advice. You know something really, I'm admitting this now in front of people, anyone that's listening, but something I was doing, I was thinking like last year, this year has just been crazy for me. So I've been sitting here getting plump. But last year I was very energized. And one thing that I found was brilliant just for work and for pleasure was to put a tune on YouTube, something dance music-y at the beginning of the day and this is where the dancing around bit comes in handy. And just like dance like a mad thing. Luckily I have an office to myself, nobody can see. Dance like a mad thing just for like 3 to 5 minutes. I have a whole list, like you said, a playlist of tunes that I'd listen to on YouTube to do it. And I'd always feel great afterwards, even if I did bang my hand or something.
You did mean mad like a mad thing.
So I can really see that helping, particularly if you're like programming yourself better. So I was just doing it basically to stay fit when I wasn't getting my 10,000 steps done a day. That was something I do. But I love the idea of like making my imposter syndrome go away by doing that.
Like that was useful.
Right. So just to go through those 3 things again. Stop, which means tell ourselves to stop us spiraling into that big thought process, which really ruins the day. Secondly, swap. So swap it for something like the dancing or going out for a walk or just getting into another space and doing something else.
Absolutely.
And scribe, which I love as well, because we're bloggers, we're writers anyway.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to stop us writing, even when we've got our imposter syndrome. So that's a great one, I think. I can see that becoming a process that I do. That's been really helpful. Where would I find out more about you, Frederique?
FrederiqueMurphy.com.
Great. And I know you have your podcast and your YouTube channel, everything linked from there as well.
Yeah, everything is linked. And also I love connecting, which I'm sure won't come as a surprise to your listeners. So I am very active on Twitter. On Twitter, my name is too long. People often ask, why is it not Frederique Murphy? It's too long. It's 16 letters. You can only have 15. So I've used my nickname, which I'm sure you'll agree is fitted, which is Irish Smiley. And that's a nickname I've had for about 15 years now. So we thought it was suitable for my online character.
And it's perfect as well, because I'm looking at your Skype picture there, and it is, every time I see you, there's you with a big smile on your face. So whatever you're doing, we know it works, because you always look like the happiest person ever.
Thank you. So happy to, and as I said, I'm sure we will, we'll link the article in the show notes, and I'm happy to come, if it's useful to your listeners, if we want us to reschedule another one in the new year, absolutely, so we can continue, because there were so many places where we could have gone, because mindset it's so big, and I love it, and that's why there is not one day the same.
I'd love to do another one. Yeah, we'll give it a couple of months to let people get into the habit of doing these ones. And then there are so many mindset problems, I think, with blogging. Lots of us get stuck. We're trundling along nicely for a little while, feeling happy enough, and then all of a sudden there's a block there. And I think that's something you can really help bloggers with, and other people, obviously, as well.
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure. Thanks, Amanda.
So thanks for that, Frederique.
You're listening to Blog Centric from Spiderworking.
Talking to Frederique is always inspiring. I'm going to share links in the show notes to some more information on the techniques that she shared. You'll find those at spiderworking.com/60. But as she said, it's simple, really. That inner voice, it needs taming. So tell it to stop. Swap it for some crazy dancing, or something a little more sedate if you prefer, and get it out of your head and onto paper so you can see how irrelevant it is. That's all for this week, but before you go, you know what I'd like? You do. I would love it if you could leave me a review on Stitcher or iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast, because when people land on my podcast on one of those networks and they see there's loads of good reviews, that makes them subscribe. It has more listeners, which makes me want to keep doing it. And if you believe in karma, you'll know that something good will come your way in return. Until next week, happy blogging.
Blog-centric from Spiderworking is sponsored by We Teach Social, social media e-learning courses for small business. Find out more at weteachsocial.com.